Hi everyone, welcome back to your own YouTube channel Infinite Iteration. I hope you liked the previous video of operating systems and I got good amount of views in my previous video. Hopefully you will like the whole series, and today we are going to discuss about evaluation of computer operating systems. So we will start our slides. So basically we have 5 generations of operating system evolution: first generation, second generation, third, fourth and fifth generation, and we will discuss each and everything briefly. So let's say if you don't have operating system, what would you do? We will directly communicate with the hardware. Those are called bare metal program. Like you directly communicate with the hardware itself, and you like manually plug in and plug out wires by your own self. There must be an operator who would be assigned this duty to deal with the hardware by itself and manually plug out wires and manually program the computer. So operating system makes it feasible for you to communicate with the hardware via software because it is a system software, as I told you in my previous video. So operating system, as you can see, there are two operators here and they are manually communicating with the wires by the help of the wires with the computer because they don't have operating system. So we will talk about the zero generation of operating system, in which there was no operating system and the operators would have to hand coded all the instructions by themselves and they use machine language. So there are different types of operating system we will discuss later in our next videos: batch operating system, multitasking operating system, multiprocessing, real time, distributed, network and mobile operating system. So the first generation of operating system began in 1950s, and basically the main idea was about batch processing. What is batch processing? Like there are different types of jobs to be performed by your computer. An operator has to separate all different categories of job based on a batch, and each batch is fed into the computer, and once the batch is completed, the next batch is fed into the computer for execution. So this is how the whole idea works. So this is batch processing. As you can see, there are 4 different types of jobs. Each were commanded by different 4 users and they were sent to the operator. There is an operator which acts as a middleman between the jobs to be executed and the batch to be made, and he will segregate these jobs and make badges for each of them. Like he created 2 different types of badge for each job, and once number 1 badge is loaded onto the computer, and after its proper execution the next badge is loaded onto the computer. As you can see, here's the another type of things, infographics, like user 1, user 2 up till user n, and they have different jobs and each job is going to the operator, and operator is creating badges of these job, and based on these badges the execution is performed. So what is non-multi-program systems? Non-multi-program system basically means that if a CPU is doing some job and it exits from its job, then the CPU becomes idle for some time and it keeps on waiting until this job is resumed for its execution. So the main idea is the CPU becomes idle and it is very slow. So CPU remains free all this time, and it has a drawback that it remains idle, and other jobs which are waiting to be executed might not get a chance to be executed because the CPU is allocated to the earlier job. So this is a very serious problem, and to avoid this situation we come up with the concept of multi-programming systems. So here comes the second generation of operating system, which began in early 1960s, and they basically talk about multi-program and multiprocessing. Multi-program means like several programs are in your main memory, your RAM, are loaded at once, and we can basically switch between these programs, and the switching between these programs are called context switching in the case of operating system. And in multiprocessing system we have several processors and by incorporated in a one single computer to increase the processing power of the machine. So as you can see, like we have a secondary storage and the program is loaded onto the main memory of operating system like job A, job B and job C, and these all are loaded into the main memory and can be executed or loaded in step by step. So we have multiprocessor. In uniprocessor only one process executes at a time, while in multiprocessing maybe two or more, we have two or more CPUs within a single computer system for parallel processing. So as you can see, like now since there are multiple processor available, multiple processes can be executed at a time, so it increases speed and parallel processing and also reduce load. So here's a brief comparison between batch processing and multiprogramming. As you can see, batch processing basically groups several jobs and one is executed after the another, and in multiprogram we can execute multiple programs at the same time on a single processor. Batch processing is slow, multiprogramming is fast. CPU might stay idle in batch processing while CPU always perform a task in multiprogramming. And batch processing basically need it is an advantage because in earlier days before batch processing we have human interaction. It minimizes the human interaction when batch processing came into place, and for multiprogramming it provides maximum CPU utilization. So we will talk about time sharing system. Time sharing system I will briefly discuss about it. It's basically like you have, like here it's shown there, we have 6 different types of job and we allocate like particular share of time for each job to be executed. So it's basically time sharing system, and we have a typewriter like terminal, and we make the request to the computer, then computer process the request and sends it back to the user. So time sharing is basically allocation of times, different time slots for different jobs. As you can see, like we have different types of user, each is performing job on the CPU and each is allocated different types. So this is time sharing system. Here comes the multiprocessor. As we have discussed before, multiprocessor will increase the throughput of the system. What is the throughput? Throughput is basically output per unit of time. Multiprocessors are more reliable. Please always try to emphasize on what is written, highlighted in the red line. It is very important for interviews or maybe general concepts of operating system. That's why I've highlighted it in red. And multiprocessor consume less electricity because when we divide the load on our different processor of our program, of our job, so it requires lesser load than incorporating all the job and executing it on a one single processor. So it requires less electricity consumption and throughput will increase. And we will talk about multiprogram and multiprocessing. A system can be both multiprogram and multiple processing. Like when we talk about multiprogram, it is basically context switching, like switching between different programs and which are loaded onto your main memory RAM. And when we talk about multiprocessing, a system can be multiprocessing at the same time while having different processes running on different CPU, on different processor in your system. So this is a concept. And now let's talk about the third generation of operating system, which began in mid 1960 to mid 1970s when we first saw IBM system 360 family of computers in 1964 that were designed for general purpose systems. They were multi-mode systems and they basically support batch processing, time sharing, real-time processing and multiprocessing. And we have the fourth generation of operating system, which began in mid 1970s. They introduced the small chips, as we still can see in old CPUs or desktop CPUs, like it's shown here, Intel Core i9. It is a small chip. So the small chip thing began in 1970s. So here's a brief introduction of evaluation of operating system, and we will discuss the fifth generation types of operating system later in our next videos. If you find my videos helpful, like if you find the value and you can like learn something, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel to help you get connected with me and see my more videos, my more content. And my main purpose is to prepare you for the job ready. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.